Hi guys, welcome to a new video. My name is Sander and today we're gonna talk about my previous bikes. I'm gonna start with the bike that I currently have. This is a Suzuki SV650. I bought it last year in 2021, and before that I had a couple of other bikes. I'm gonna talk you through it and let you know which bikes they were. The first bike I had was a KTM. It was a 990 SMT. Pretty mad bike to begin with, but I didn't have much knowledge about it, and it was a cool looking bike, so I bought it. Well, it went a little different when we were looking for the bike. I saw a KTM 990 SMR, and that was the bike I wanted. But at that time I didn't have my license yet, so I couldn't buy it. At the time I had my license, it was sold. I didn't know that, so I went to the shop. They told me it wasn't there anymore, but they had a SMT, which is kinda the similar bike, but with a little bit more fairing and a little bit more touring capabilities. So I thought, no SMR, so I will buy an SMT. That was my first bike. It was a very good bike, but not for a beginner rider. The bike is very choppy at low rev, so when you want to ride it slowly or a little bit like I'm doing now, it's not happy at all. When you're going to push it a little bit more, the bike lets you know that it is in its element and that it is a very good bike. But at the time I wasn't capable of riding it, so I wanted to get rid of it. So I went looking for another bike, and I rode a Yamaha Tracer 900, and I liked it very much. It was smooth, it wasn't scary, but it had the power to have a lot of fun with it. That's what I thought, but I didn't like the looks of it. So I wanted to search on the internet and came across a Yamaha MT-09. It was a 2014 model, so the early MT-09s, and I went looking for a bike like that. Found one a little bit further from my home, and I did go for a test ride and was sold. It had a crapper V exhaust on it, and at that time you could remove the DB killers, and it sounded crazy. The thing was so loud that you were a little bit ashamed when you rode it, so I had the DB killer in it, but it sounded mad. But over time, and I think that all motorcyclists have that feeling, I wanted something different, and it was a lot different. I went looking for a Harley. It was a Harley Iron 883. On horsepower it was around half of the MT-09, like 55 horsepower. When I look back, it was a stupid decision, but at the time I wanted it, so I went looking for it, and I found one, a Iron 883 2018 model. It had a open air intake on it, some crazy loud exhaust. You thought the MT-09 exhaust was loud, the Harley exhaust was 3 times louder with the DB killers in it, but I loved it. I loved the sound of it, I loved the looks of it, so I went ahead and bought a Harley-Davidson Iron 883. When I look back, it was a stupid decision, but it felt good, so I did it. I think I had that bike for around 6 months, and then I realized that when you want to ride it like I'm doing now, which most of the time I'm doing, that bike isn't capable for doing that. It's fine when you go straight, but when you want to corner, the bike don't want to corner. It's like that. So I thought, okay, what do I want for riding? I don't commute on it. It's pure for pleasure rides. I want something that's capable in the corners and looks good as well. And at that time, KTM came out with a Duke 790. Did some research on it and loved the looks of the bike, except the license plate holder. But I found a license plate holder with the rear light in it, and it was so much better than the original one. Don't really know what it was. Yeah, it was a eBay buy and from somebody, I don't know anymore. But that bike was a really good bike. Maybe the best bike I had. Enjoyed the bike really much. Had a different exhaust on it, an X-Sail, don't know what it's called exactly, but it was like a little Coca-Cola can, and it sounded really good. But also with this KTM, like the first one I had, At low revs it's really choppy. I was a little bit more experienced at that time, but still it wasn't the most smooth bike that I know you can ride. But it was really fun to ride it. Maybe stupid for me to sell it, but like with the when I had the MT-09, when I had it I wanted something different. And I also wanted something different because my girlfriend sometimes came with me on a ride, and a 790 isn't ideal for getting a passenger on it. So I went up to search something that was capable of riding with two people, but also was a lot of fun. So I ended up looking for a Suzuki V-Strom, the 1000cc version, and saw one online. It had a Yoshimura exhaust on it, and it wasn't too expensive, so I wanted to have a look and ended up buying the bike. When I first got it, I was a little bit disappointed because the KTM was pretty loud and the Suzuki was, you can call it quiet. It didn't have a dB killer in it, but it was like half the sound of the KTM. So I was a little bit disappointed. I ended up mailing the shop where I bought it from and asked them if there was a valve or something that could open to make it a little bit more louder. They said to me, it's never gonna be as loud as the KTM, you have to do with it, blah blah blah. So I thought, okay, that's it, it's a good bike. It sounds good, it's not as loud as the KTM, but we'll do with it. So there's a little story before what I just told you. I bought the bike from Hughe Suzuki Center, and they are also doing racing. So they also do tuning on bikes, and they also did it on the V-Strom 1000 that I bought. So it had a custom quick shifter on it, it had a tune on it, and a little bit more things. So it had a little bit more torque and a little bit more horsepower than original. So yeah, that was on the bike when I bought it. Then at some day I wanted to clean the bike and realized that there was a valve between the, I think it is the catalytic converter and the end can. So I followed some cables and realized that they weren't attached to anything. So normally when you go above let's say 3,000 or 4,000 revs, the valve will open so it can flow more easily and it gets more power. Below those revs it's closed, but because the cables weren't attached to anything, the valve was always closed, and as you probably can realize, the sound was always a little bit damped. So I thought, well, maybe I can remove those cables and the valve and let's see how it sounds then. So I went ahead and do that, removed the valve, started it up, and boy, it sounded so much better. But basically it was open with no dB killer, so you can imagine the sound of a V-twin 1000cc with a Yoshimura exhaust with no dB killer in it. That was pretty good, so I was happy with the bike. It was a really good bike. For 2-up it was perfect. It had plenty of torque, it had plenty of horsepower. I know nowadays it sounds like not of a lot, 105 horsepower, but it's plenty to get a lot of fun out of it. Did some nice things to the bike, some nice rides, also with my girlfriend on the back. But after about a year and a half, I wanted to get a naked bike again. So I ended up searching what kind of bike I wanted. First I was looking at a Triumph 3 but the older model, the 675, and then the RX model. So it had the Daytona back, a quick shifter on it, and a little bit more things to it. But I thought they were too expensive. It was second hand, it had about 20,000 kilometers on it, and then they were asking too much for it. So I went ahead and searched for some other things, and then I came to the SV650. Ended up doing lots of research on it, what people really thought of the bike, because most of the time you read that it's a beginner bike and that you get bored of it and such things. but out of all reviews it came out really good. And after owning the bike for about a year now, I can only say that it is a really good bike. So like when you expect superbike performance from it, you're gonna be disappointed. But for a bike to have fun on it and really ride it like I'm doing now, it is a perfect bike. So to come back to the story, I went ahead and go for a test ride on the SV650 and a Yamaha MT-09, but ended up liking the SV650 more, and that's mainly because of the engine that's in it. The V-twin engine is, in my opinion, so much better than the parallel twin from the Yamaha. I know that's really good too. It was my learner bike, MT-09, but the sound of it, the feeling that it gives you, for me the engine gave me the last push to buy the SV650 over the MT-09. So then we're here with the SV650. Still love this bike. I still don't have the feeling to want another bike, but you never know. You're always looking at something and then you think, nah, the SV650 is fine, but who knows what's next. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, don't forget to like the video, and I hope you will subscribe to my channel, and hope to see you in future videos. Thanks and bye bye.